Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with John Faisandier from tuf.co.nz. And have you ever wondered how you could better manage those moments when the other person is difficult and emotional? And when we're bringing this up, maybe these people that you're imagining could be customers, colleagues, friends, or family. There is always someone in your life that's a challenge. And my guest today has spent a huge chunk of his life researching, teaching, and practicing these skills that could help you to manage your own emotions and emotional people. And he has taught these skills to thousands of grateful people in many countries. And John is here to share with me a little of his story as an author, as a trainer, as an entrepreneur. John from Wellington, New Zealand, glad to be talking to you.
Yeah, good day. How are you? No, I'm delighted to be here myself.
All right, so I am excited to jump in and get a handle on these pesky emotions because it seems like sometimes they get in the way, don't they? Some days I don't feel like doing this, or I know I should be doing that, but I'm blocked. So why are you the guy to share all the Grandmaster secrets with us? Why are you the guy to unlock the code and tell us what we need to know?
Well, it certainly is true that emotions they do drive people. And whatever we're feeling seems to affect us so much. Even more, actually, what other people are feeling affects us. So emotions in that sense are contagious. And so we could be having a nice day and then meet somebody who's very grumpy and acting out in some way, and that affects us quite deeply. And so getting to understand this is a real challenge. Because we don't actually need to be a victim just to all of these sort of moods and tides of emotion. We can learn how to manage them much better than we do.
And that sounds like a great thing to aspire to because I can completely relate to you saying how emotions are contagious. I might be having a great day, and that one customer or that one friend, they are in a bad mood, and for some reason it rubs off on me, and then I feel bad that I was such a weak person to let it affect me, and then it becomes an endless loop of I feel bad about feeling bad, and I feel bad about that, and it's just how the heck do I get a handle on this?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, part of it is to begin by realizing something about the physiology. What happens to you when you do have feelings? And this relates a lot to the way our brain works. And feelings, like we're always on the lookout for something that's dangerous. And often these feelings, or particularly when somebody's angry or annoyed, or they somehow dislike us, or we perceive that what they're showing dislike us, our brain activates so that we get defensive. And that's the adrenaline starts flowing through our body for fight or flight. And what happens in particular is that part of the brain called the amygdala. That's the bit that's our defense system, or it's almost like the security center. That gets overactive. The rational part of our brain shuts down, the ability to think clearly. So learning how to manage that, you can actually change that just by a few things. I mean, deep breathing is one of the things that can help calm down. And the other thing is actually naming your feelings to yourself. Now, that's probably the most powerful thing you can do. It is, though, what you need to remember before you do that, or realize that actually none of our feelings are bad. Even using the word good or bad, there's feelings we don't like. But all our feelings are good in the sense that they tell us something about ourselves. So being able to name our feelings without judging them as being bad and without wanting to run away from them, this becomes a really important way of managing your feelings.
Interesting. So feelings are not good or bad. They just give us that information. And I'm curious to unpack a little bit of what you said there about naming our emotions, because when I first heard you say that, what came to mind was that concept of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, where the Eskimos have 200 words for ice because it's used so much, And then it made me think that it's really easy to be a caveman, right? And say, well, I'm mad, and that's it, and not really understand, well, what kind of mad are you? Why are you mad? What triggered you to be mad? And maybe if we figured out a more detailed word, we could maybe understand, like, maybe some days I'm mad about this, or sometimes I'm enraged about that. Am I on the right track there, or what do you mean when you talk about naming our emotions?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of good points that you're raising there. One is even just to be able to name any, come up with any name, gets the language center of your brain working, which is in the frontal cortex. That's the bit that's already shut down. One of the reasons why, when you're in that moment, you can't think what to say. You can't even think what to say, let alone say it. Um, Afterwards, you remember that, and you think, oh, I should have said that. Now that just gets your brain going. The second, so that's the language itself. The second part, though, what you bring up is exactly what am I feeling? Quite often, we talk about anger or being mad about something. We can think of that as a secondary emotion, that it actually hides some of these other emotions that we make us feel more vulnerable. And these are the ones we don't want to reveal even to ourselves. So leaning into your feeling, actually, yes, I am mad, but what is it that's getting me to react like this? Because, being mad or angry is more of a, getting ready for a fight, but something's motivating that. And you certainly don't have to nuance it so carefully as you might do 200 different colors, words for white or for ice or whatever. Um, but it's more going, actually, what's underneath this reaction? Where does this come from, and what does this remind me of? So you get curious about your feelings, and and almost like, how interesting, I'm reacting this way to this person. I mean, you might not be able to do it in the moment, of course, because you are reactive, but it's about calming yourself down and then reflecting on it afterwards and saying, what is this feeling about? And then if you develop that as a habit, when this situation arises again, you've got a lot more control.
Interesting. And some of these things that you're saying so far are very reassuring, because you said things that, like, develop these habits or think later on. Like, maybe in the moment you can't even think because you're so angry you can't come up with the words. That's okay, because maybe later on when we reflect, then we can identify what was going on, what was behind it, what was the root cause, and maybe, hopefully, maybe the next time or the time after that, we can maybe awaken the intellectual side of ourselves and not just be thinking in fight or flight terms. And to help us understand some of these maybe like abstract theoretical concepts, can you talk about maybe your own emotions in a time when you were angry, or when that got the best of you and you used some of these tools to get through it or get past it?
Yes, it's been a lifetime of learning for me. But there's a moment that just comes to mind as you ask that question. I'm driving along in the car with my wife. She's next to us. We've been together for about 20 years at this stage. We're about 30 now. But and I can remember very vividly, she's talking about something, and I notice my frustration increasing hugely. I think she's talking about, from memory, about a holiday, and I didn't want to talk about that at the time, but planning something and ideas that she had which were different from mine. I noticed my frustration grew as we drove along. We were in a traffic jam, actually, so we were going quite slowly, and this was going to take forever. I then start thinking, I've married the wrong person. This is completely the biggest mistake in my life. 20 years ago, I could have chosen hundreds of other women. They would have been lining up for me. Instead, I chose this one. So I'm catastrophizing this in my mind about how bad, and thinking she's causing my frustration. Then I remembered I am a trained professional, so I can try this stuff at home. And so I just say to myself, not even to her, I'm feeling really frustrated. With that, the picture that came to me, well, I can remember as well, we were at the traffic light, so we'd stopped. I picture a filing cabinet, and it's 4 or 5 drawers, got really deep. One of the drawers has got frustration written on it. And that drawer comes open as I say this to myself, and there it is, jam-packed full of drop files. And I realized that my frustration this frustration in this moment links to all the frustrations I've ever had in my life. So from her being the 100% cause of my frustration right now, I realized that actually she's not even 0.1% cause of my frustration. So, and I looked at this drawer and just went, yeah, I have been very frustrated at many different times in my life. And that's what I'm feeling right now. It's got nothing to do with, or very little to do with what she's saying. So I was able to let that frustration go. As soon as I acknowledged that, I noticed that it dropped completely in me. And I was able to say, sorry, I haven't been listening properly to you. What is it that you're saying about this holiday? We ended up having a really good conversation. But I had been seeing this is going to lead to disaster, and up until then. So just naming that moment to yourself. Indeed, if I'd said it out loud, the most likely thing I might have said would, you make me frustrated. But nobody makes me frustrated. It's my frustration. I own it. I need to own it, see it, and acknowledge that. And that can make a huge difference. So what, for people listening just now, try this. In that moment, if you can just name your feeling to yourself and sort of notice what it's like, and then allow something to emerge in yourself, something new to emerge.
Interesting. You're making me think back to different, and we've all had these moments in our lives when we act before we think, right? And you said that a few times in your story there, that you could have said this, or you could have just blurted something out, and when you took those few seconds to maybe abstract things a little bit, to go to the mental filing cabinet and see where it fits in what category, and you say, this is this emotion, and here's all these times when I've had this emotion. So it's, in the grand scheme of things, it's not the end of the world, right? You mentioned catastrophizing. It's just 0.01% of the times you were frustrated. And then also, what stuck with me about what you said there was that everything happens within ourselves, right? We've never not seen anything through our own eyes. We have no idea what other people are thinking. We've never seen ourselves from somewhere else. It all happens within us. Like, the image comes into our retinas, and the image flips around and all that. Like, even the outside world's upside down from what we think it is. It all happens within us. But I imagine that if someone out there is frustrated with their business, or they're trying to get self-motivated, or they're trying to overcome the anger, a lot of this is easier said than done, right? Like, you can say, there was this moment, or I can use this mind technique, but sometimes people just, I imagine, say, I don't even know how to get out from under this, right? I don't even know how to completely reinvent myself, or change, or get over the anger or the lack of motivation. I mean, what do you say to people that just feel like they're completely stuck and nowhere to turn?
Yes. And that is one of the huge challenges, especially for working on your own, or developing your own business where you're the leader, and whether you're leading yourself or other people as well. And so even some of it is being able to admit and acknowledge that I don't know what to do next. Right at the moment, I'm in my own business, developing a whole new marketing approach. I've got an online program, and I've tailored it to the veterinary industry and wanting to target to the United States. How do I market this? I'm learning a huge amount about social marketing, about all kinds of things, and at times feel quite overwhelmed. Now, to be able to acknowledge that and say, yes, in the past, I've also felt overwhelmed by new projects, but now, and so I can get through this. And I've done this before. And so this is an important part of how to get through these moments. Also, knowing that your feelings do move. So even I'm as mad as anything, and feel really wound up, acknowledging that, sometimes it does mean taking some practical steps. Actually, I do need to even just go for a walk for that matter, let alone take a day off, if not a weekend or some other things like that. But giving yourself space. And, we're talking at the moment right in the middle of the pandemic and the lockdown. And that's where people are feeling a lot of these frustrations. And others, a lot of the advice is saying, cut yourself some slack. There is a time for self-compassion. You don't have to achieve everything at once. Even though I've got a lot of big ideas about how I want to get this done, things going to take a lot longer. So there's that about just getting some perspective, and one that I've used is, at the end of my life, when I look back on this moment, what will it look like? How will I think of this moment when I look at the whole of my life and go, well, it was a little bit, and it was, but right now it seems like it is 100% of my life, But so giving yourself some perspective, I think, is very important.
Interesting. And you keep using this word acknowledge, and that's hitting home for me a lot, that whatever we're feeling before doing anything, just take a moment and understand where you're currently at. And then some of your statements here have made me think about the weather, right? Like, if there's bad weather outside, well, it will pass. And it's easy to think that this moment in time is just how it is, and you're angry, or you're in a funk because you're stuck at home because of the virus. But you take a walk, you change the channel, 10 minutes later, you will think differently. This will pass. And it kind of works in both ways, right? Because if things are bad now, things will improve later. But then also, if you feel overwhelmed, well, there's only so much you can do in the moment. So maybe cut yourself some slack in that sort of space. And so you mentioned that you are working to work with veterinary clinics. And can you explain to us what that program is all about, or what you're trying to accomplish there?
Yes. Well, I've been running face-to-face workshops for the last 20 years, and realized 4 or 5 years ago that this is not sustainable forever, and and this message that I've got is so important. I want to get it out to more people. So I've developed an online program, and it's been used and very successful in a lot of areas. And so I thought, what I do know is that veterinarians have high levels of stress in their work, and I thought this would be a good target market. So I've tailored the program. So I've got a special program for them, and my work now is marketing this. And I've been trying Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads, but I realize a lot of marketing is about giving good content, giving good value to people. So I write a lot of blog posts giving away these ideas to people. So giving them free, and this way, in developing the relationship, even online. So you and I, we can talk, and we've got a one-to-one relationship. But with the big market, you can't always have one-to-one, but at least you can have, so people get to see what it is I'm about, that I'm sincere, that I know what I'm talking about, and that I am generous in terms of giving away, tips and ideas and things that will help them in their life. So that's what my plan is there, and I've been working on this for the last 6 months or so. Been using and learned a lot from ClickFunnels. You might be aware of that and some of the teaching there. And in the end, it's me. I've got to do it. It takes a long time. I've got to cut myself some slack. A lot of these places say, "Oh, you can do this in 30 days, or you can create a funnel in 10 minutes. Well, you can, but it takes several months to learn how to do that.
Right.
So that's, and I'm very keen for people working in the veterinary industry, not just veterinarians, but also technicians and nurses and receptionists. They will benefit from this online training that I've got.
Well, you said that right now we're doing this one-on-one conversation, but people can listen in, and we can reuse this recording again and again and get their attention, and then they can reach out to you and have those other one-to-one conversations. And that's like kind of the magic of moving things online, as you began doing 5 years ago. And so we've been talking about managing your emotions and thriving under fire, TUF, and you also mentioned how veterinarians have this kind of high stress job. So, what do you have to say to veterinarians specifically about maybe what are they doing that could be better, and what sort of change needs to happen, and how can you help these veterinarians get where they need to be? What is it that you bring to the table?
What I bring really is that I've refined. It's taken me a long time and a lot of therapy and a lot of training as a psychodramatist to learn how to manage my own emotions. And then I've spent a lot of time how to teach this. And so the first thing to realize, I mean, people want to work with animals partly because they're not so keen on people, and so developing those people skills is possible. And it doesn't take a huge, they don't have to do all the kind of work that I did. I've refined it so that there are some very simple steps that you can do that will help you deal with because much of the stress comes from the pet owners, plus the staff, the whole situation that you're in a clinic or a hospital. And it's about learning what's happening for yourself, a lot about what we've been talking about, and then what you can say to the other person that will help them to calm down and create a lot more calm. And the very simple thing there is about acknowledging, first of all, their emotions, what they're distressed about. And when you do those two things, that helps both you and them to calm down. So I've got my website for the veterinarians is tuf.ac, and if you go onto that website, that will lead you in. I've written quite a report for veterinarians about the stresses that they do and how they can stress less in their work, particularly in dealing with people and managing the business and managing all of the other things that are there.
Well, fantastic. You always hear about how doctors are supposed to have the bedside manner, and that's just the people dealing with humans, right? And how many of us have dealt with doctors who don't even have that figured out, let alone the veterinarians who, as you said, maybe they were on the path to becoming a doctor and they said, I'd rather help horses, dogs, cats, animals because humans aren't that great. Well, guess what? Those horses, dogs, cats, other animals, they have the human owners. You still have to deal with them. So these are all life skills that we all need. But some of us in other professions, maybe we feel like we don't need them as much. But veterinarians seems like they are in some ways maybe kind of caught in the middle or left out. And so it seems like they need the information that you have here. That way they can, as you said, create the calm and then also acknowledge or deal with the other person's emotions, the patient, the client's emotions first, and then align with that and communicate the information that needs to be communicated without the emotions getting in the way. Because like as you said when we started, the emotions can either hurt us or help us, right? And it's easy for it to just be like a block from us thinking. But you said that emotions are not good or bad. They are giving us information, and maybe it's a little weird to decode that because some things come out of us from nowhere, things trigger us, things remind us of other things, things are blown out of proportion. But we need these tools that you are talking about today. And you said tuf.co.nz. Is that the place for us to go and get some of these resources?
Yep, that's one of the websites, and the one particularly is for the academy, the training academy, is tuf.ac. Just that, tuf.ac.
All right, and so when people go to tuf.ac, what exactly will they find there, and what would you like them to do and click on?
Yeah, well, that's where the special report for veterinarians. That's the veterinarian website, and they can click on there, get this report, and find out more about how they can manage their stress. And for others, tough.co.nz will be the general website.
Well,
And,
fantastic. Yeah, and as you know, John, we all are dealing with stress and emotions, and some of us more than others, right? If the virus hits us, if we're stuck at home, if we're running our own business, if we're having to be a veterinarian, some of us have it more than others. And if we don't have the training and the tools that we need to get this done, it's like trying to drive a car without having to learn how to drive, right? You'll crash your car. And if people out there in podcast land have been feeling like they've been crashing the car of their emotions again and again, and you want to stop getting in the fender bender and actually use your emotions to help you and not hurt you, then the place to go is tuf.ac if you are a veterinarian, and tuf.co.nz if you want more in general about how to manage your stress and manage your emotions. And as we begin to wrap up, wind down here, John, do you think there is any final point that you want to leave us with, or anything you felt like needs to be unpacked, wasn't mentioned, and is super important?
No, I would really just reinforce that what the emotions teach us about is our values. When we really get down to it, that's why our feelings or our emotions are our friends, because they really do reveal what's important. Many of them, as you say, come from nowhere, which is often early childhood trauma that's happened, or things that have happened to us. And it's possible to heal all of these things by bringing them to consciousness. So if you can tame your emotions by naming them. If you name them, you will tame them. So that would be the real powerful thing just to finish with, I think, Robert.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, John. I will keep that in mind, especially for myself. I will work on naming my emotions so that way they don't control me. That way I can think about that mental filing cabinet, and I can realize to myself if I'm feeling this way, if something seems to come out of nowhere, where is that coming from? What caused it? What's his name? And then that way, instead of trying to keep things bottled up or try to keep things at bay, we can bring it into the light and then begin to deal with it. And once again, tuf.ac and tuf.co.nz is the place to go to manage your emotions. And thank you so much, John, for stopping by and sharing some of this wonderful wisdom with us today.
Thank you, Robert. It's been delightful to be here.